وإني على ثقة من طريقي إلى الله رب السنا والشروق فإن عافني السوق أو عاقني فإني أمين لعهد الوثيق فإني أمين لعهد الوثيق
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His final messenger, Muhammad. The term superiority may have various meanings to different people. And when we say superiority of the faith, we really mean something unique and special. It is without a doubt directly linked to the Muslim's faith. So naturally, people may have many questions regarding this superiority. We are here to explain what we mean by the superiority of faith, and lots of other related questions, such as, how does superiority of faith compare to other feelings of superiority, based on worldly values, such as wealth or social status, lineage, and so on? Does this state of superiority require Allah's granting of victory for the believers? Or can it even found even in the weakness or in defeat? In other words, if a Muslim is in the state of material defeat, does he still have the right to feel superior? Also, what is the relationship between the superiority and the complete trusting reliance in Allah Almighty? Here's another good question. What is the difference between the sense of superiority in faith and exalting yourself over people? And how about the first generation of Muslims? How did they practice this in their lives? We will briefly discuss these questions, but they are covered in great detail by the author in the 11th chapter of the Shuruh.
This superiority of the faith is not one that a believer struggles to emulate or forcibly adapts himself to. Rather, it is an unforced state which is naturally instilled in the believer the moment he comprehends the truth of Islam, the divinity of Allah, as well as the proper perception and outlook towards every matter according to the divine teachings of Allah. This sense of superiority begins to form within the Muslim from the moment he recognizes that he has transitioned from one religion to another, and from one way of life to another, and understands that he has moved away from the swamp of Jahiliyyah and into the garden of Islam. Then, as the Muslim lives with the teachings of Islam and strives to practice it in all aspects of life, this sense of superiority grows and intensifies. The author writes, quote, "The realization and feeling of superiority of the faith is a great matter, for the Islamic faith itself possesses a certain inherent superiority that consequently instills in the believer an internal sense of superiority. The superiority and greatness that surrounds the Muslim directly stems from this faith." Now, there are various types of people who feel superior. This sense of superiority could be due to their wealth, their origin, their social status, knowledge, or strength. There are also those who feel superior despite lacking any tangible cause, and at times this leads to overconfidence and arrogance. However, feeling superior due to faith differs from any other form of superiority. It represents the state of superiority which ought to be well established for the believer when facing everything, when facing every condition, every value, and every person. A superiority derives from the superiority of the Islamic faith and its values above all other values that do not derive from the Islamic faith.
In this chapter, the author spoke about how a Muslim must have a sense of superiority over many things due to his faith. He must remain superior in the face of all earthly powers and values that have not been derived from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He must remain superior despite his weakness and or lack of resources. This is because none of those factors have any value in the life of a believer, because we will all leave this world. It does not matter if one is poor or rich, weak or strong. An individual's value does not derive from his wealth or strength, but rather from his adherence to the truth. Thus, a believer feels superior on earth, regardless of his state. He never feels defeated or weakened. This was the lesson that Allah taught the Muslims in the Battle of Uhud. Allah declared to them, "So do not weaken and do not grieve, for you will be superior if you are believers." Thus, Allah has directly linked belief and faith to this sense of superiority, which does not give in to any aggressive force, social custom, or man-made legislation.
The author wrote about the relationship between this superiority and the reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as well as comprehending the true meaning and importance of this reliance. Indeed, the person who understands the stature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understands that there is no true power in this world other than Allah's power. So he learns to lean on Allah's power, and from it draws steadfastness and strength in confronting falsehood. This is the true reliance upon Allah. Glory be to Him. The author writes, quote, "This sense of superiority is only found through the comprehensive understanding and certainty of the greatness of Allah's divinity. Societies have their own logic and thinking, norms, legislation, overbearing standards, and pressure which overpower those who are not protected by a firm entity and support. Prevailing ideologies and common concepts have a power that is difficult to overcome without adhering to a truth as well as a greater, stronger, and more superior source whereby those ideologies and concepts lose all value. Thus, one who wishes to face Jahiliyyah must be strong. He must be connected to a power and source that is higher, stronger, and more superior to that of Jahiliyyah. This is the ultimate form of reliance on Allah, the Almighty." End quote.
Of course, there are many questions in the minds of people, especially those who are involved in da'wah or in the call and advocacy to Islam. How can I feel superior through my faith? How does the superiority of faith reflect on the methodology of conveying the truth? How do we achieve the superiority in our contemporary reality? And is it really true that superiority helps believers to stand firm in the face of falsehood and jahiliyyah? Unfortunately, we cannot possibly answer all of these questions in this spotlight, but the shuruh has answered them and many other questions in great detail. You can find the full text of the shuruh on the official website of the group, the Proclaimers of the Truth. And our final word is in praise of Allah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
ثقة من طريق إلى الله رب السنا والشروق فإن عافني السوق أو عاقني فإني أمين لعهد الوثيق